What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number, 493. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the line all the way from nighttime in Denver, Colorado, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Yeah, in about 5 minutes, it will be technically morning. But hey, LR after dark, not a bad place to be.
Not too bad at all. So we've got a fun show lined up for you today. We're going to do two things. One, we're going to do another episode of War. This one for War of the Spark version of Overrated, Underrated, or Properly Rated, where we're going to take a bunch of cards and give you our opinions on whether they're one of those three. And then the other thing we're going to do is new. We're going to try a full draft walkthrough with you here on LR. We decided, we've got Arena available to us, which allows us to do pretty close to a real draft, but also in our own time so we can actually talk about the picks and work our way through. Think like a crack a draft that we do, but instead of going 3 or 4 picks deep, we're just going to go the whole way. So both of those things for you today on LR. Before we get into them, got to mention our sponsor, channelfireball.com. That's the place to go for all things you need Magic related on the internet. If you need something, you're going to find it there. War of the Spark, yes, you can get it. Singles, sealed product, all of it at Channel Fireball. Make sure you sign up for the CFB Discord channel, channelfireball.com/Discord. I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well, where you can talk about all different types of Magic topics on there, whatever it is that you want to talk about. They probably have a room for it. It's a pretty expansive setup there. And then also the newsletter. You can get the monthly written by Luis Scott-Vargas newsletter? Weekly newsletter.
Yeah,
all right.
We actually just launched.
You signed up for it.
Yeah, of course. We actually just launched the Commander newsletter as well. That'd be written by Eric Levine. So every week, Eric and I write about the things that strike our fancy in our respective formats.
The Machine.
The Raging Levine.
Yeah, the Raging Levine. That's right. I'll put a link to that one in the show notes as well, where you can get that. And then occasionally there's even some nice goodies in those newsletters. So you'll want to sign up for that. If you'd like to support the show directly, you can do so. Patreon.com/limited resources is where our most dedicated listeners go to support the show. We really, really appreciate you. Thank you. Everybody who does that. It really means a lot to us. And it is a very special thing to be able to be supported by your listener base like we are on Patreon, and we want to thank you for that. Okay, we're not going to do a crack-a-pack this time because we're going to do this whole draft walkthrough, which is going to kind of be like a super version of that. So let's get into this. Pack one, pick one. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do our best to keep you up to speed as far as how the deck is going. We're going to do regular check-ins to tell you where we're at with the draft, and we'll go through. So here's our first one, pack one, pick one. The cards that stand out here, I'll just, and I'm going to apologize for anybody that doesn't know the cards quite yet. In the set, this is going to be a little tough because we just can't read all the cards for this. So we're going to assume that you know what the cards do. I might give like a brief description sometimes. So Dreadhorde Arcanist is our rare, the one in a red 1/3 that lets you buy back spells from your yard. And then our uncommons are Teo the Light Shield, Bond of Insight, and Ugin's Conjurer.
Favorite.
Yeah, and then out of the commons, there's actually some decent stuff here too. There's a Callous Dismissal, a Wanderer's Strike, and a Spark Harvest that kind of jump out as the 3 best commons in the pack.
Yeah, I would say that Spark Harvest I like more than Wanderer's Strike or Callous Dismissal, especially pick one, pack one. But
yeah, same.
But we talk it up, and now we're going to get to walk the walk. I think Ugin's Conjuring is what both of us would select here.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly what I would take. I think it's better than the other cards, and being colorless is very powerful in this format. So we'll take Ugin's Conjuring as our first card. Next, the rare is missing from our pack. Our uncommons are Price of Betrayal, Bond of Flourishing, and Jiang Yangu Wildcrafter. And then out of the common slot, we have a Wanderer's Strike, a Spark Harvest, a Tamiyo's Epiphany, and a Bloom Hulk that stand out. There's also a New Horizons, if you want to kind of go nuts. But we've got some good removal options here, Luis, with the Spark Harvest or the Strike. And then we've got Bloom Hulk, Jiang Yangu, and green. And then if we really want, we can grab a Tamiyo's Epiphany, though it feels a little early for that.
Yeah, I would narrow this down to really Bloom Hulk versus Spark Harvest. Again, I think Wanderer's Strike lags a little behind both those, actually. And my inclination is to take Spark Harvest. I think it's pretty close. I wouldn't fault you for taking Bloom Hulk, but I like just taking the removal spell that you could even splash if you needed to, though I haven't tended to do that.
Yeah, I am definitely on taking Spark Harvest here, though. I believe that this is in the close but clear camp. It is not a windmill slam.
No.
And I wouldn't yell at you if you took the other guy. All right, pack 1, pick 3. So far we've got Ugin's Conjurant and Spark Harvest, so only black. Our uncommons, the rares missing, are Narset, Parter of Veils, Bolt Bend, and another Bond of Flourishing. Out of the commons, let's see. Well, there's a Chandra's Pyrohelix. There's really nothing that competes. There's a Spellkeeper Weird, a Snare Spinner, a bunch of kind of junky ones that, but really, in my mind, none of the cards in this pack, full stop, even come close to Narset.
No, this is not a close pack, but definitely a clear one. I think Narset is actually just a great card. I've been really impressed by Narset.
Not close, but clear.
Yeah, and I would just slam Narset here.
Yeah, the blue cards that we could wheel are Kasmina's Transmutation, Spellkeeper Weird, Teferi's Time Twist, and Stealth Mission. Nothing really to speak of.
Nah,
so
really.
We'll take the Narset. And our next pack,
this is
we've got,
this is our closest decision here. We've got Jace's Triumph as one of the uncommons, 3 mana, draw 2, and then Death Sprout, which is 1 black, green, instant destroy a creature and search for a basic land. The best common is probably right now Guild Globe or Vraska's Finisher. Nothing too exciting. So basically, do we want to take the more reliable Divination, which goes nicely with Narset and Spark Harvest, actually, or the more powerful but pushing us into 3 colors, Death Sprout?
Yeah, the interesting part about this, of course, is that the Death Sprout goes great with our Spark Harvest and our Conjurant. No issue there. Narset, unfortunately, not splashable in the traditional sense, at least not off of the Death Sprout.
But we could also be blue-black splashing Death Sprout because it is heavier black than green.
Very true. And that actually is my inclination here, is to take the Death Sprout. I like Jace's Triumph, but I feel that pick's a little too safe for my blood, and I would take the Death Sprout here.
I would Death Sprout here as well.
All right, so let's take that.
So now that we have, a black card, a blue card, and a green-black card, I'm mostly interested. Oh, the beast has joined me. The dog, to be clear. There's a lot of beasts running around.
There's tyrants and beasts.
Yeah. Now that we have these 3 cards, like I'm prioritizing Guild Globes and the like. Though this pack's interesting. We've got Invade the City as an uncommon, still a card not particularly impressed with, and then Callous Dismissal, which is an excellent card and works very nicely with Narset and Spark Harvest both. Totally Lost, Spark Reaper, Vraska's Finisher. So blue-black definitely looking open here. There's 2 good black cards, 2 good blue cards here. And then a Mana Geode is kind of like a slightly less conventional choice that you could take if you're really invested in splashing. But I think we're both just going to be on Callous Dismissal here.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about it too. Like I see that Callous Dismissal and I'm like, all right, Narset can find that, right? I mean, Narset right now looks amazing. The things that she can find are Death Sprout, Spark Harvest, and then this Dismissal. If we take it, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
So let's do that. So we take the Dismissal. So right now, to recap again, we've got Narset, Callous Dismissal in blue, Death Sprout in black-green, Ugin's Conjurant colorless, and then a Spark Harvest. All right, so our next pack has 1 uncommon left. It's Rally of Wings, so we don't want that. The blue cards are Relentless Advance, Sky Theater Strix, and Wall of Runes. There are green cards in here, Crawl Stinger, Return to Nature, and Steady Aim. There are no black cards. There's a Blind Blast and a Teo's Light Shield to round out the pack. So we'd be taking a blue card here, presumably, and that leaves us with either Sky Theater Strix or Relentless Advance as the reasonable choices. Wall of Runes has been a massive underperformer. I prefer the Strix here. Just a quick look at our curve has really nothing at 1. We have Callous Dismissal as our 2. Not that worried about it at this point, but I would be inclined to take the Strix. What would you take?
Yeah, I would take the Strix. That card's actually grown on me quite a bit. I'm still not looking to play it in this deck necessarily, but if you run short on 2 drops, it can help attack Planeswalkers, gives you something relevant to do. And I really don't like Relentless Advance, and none of these other cards are playable. So this is kind of a pack where you kind of feel like you would have bricked no matter which colors you were in.
That's right. So we're going to take the Strix here and be fine with it. Next pack has an uncommon. It's Cruel Celebrant, the white-black 1/2. The rest of the pack, wow. Look at that, Luis. So there's another Sky Theater Strix. There's also a Sorin's Thirst, a couple of red cards, a Return to Nature, a Charm Stray, but there's a Lazotep Reaver in this pack. Oh, yeah. I like that.
Easy Lazotep Reaver. That card's awesome. And it really kind of cements us into blue-black. Like, I'm not saying we couldn't go a different direction if we opened something ridiculous or got past something, late. But right now with two good black cards plus a black-green card and 2 good blue cards, I'm pretty happy with the position I'm in.
Who would win in a race, Julie or Lazatep Reaver?
Julie can hustle. I think Lazatep Reaver looks like it's a little clunkier.
It is. Also, it's a zombie, which are notoriously slow. All right, next pack. This is pack 1, pick 8. So we haven't quite hit our wheel yet. This is our last pick before it. Uncommon, there's only one left in the pack. It's decent, though. It's Lazatep plating. Yeah. So we could take that. And then there's a Charm Stray, a Teferi's Time Twist, and then 2 green cards that aren't good and 2 red cards, which we're not going to consider.
Yeah, I would just take
So I just take plating.
I like plating.
So we'll just take that. Yeah, no need to overthink these late picks. Ooh. Here's our first wheel, and wow. So they're all commons left in the pack, but there's a Guild Globe in here still.
Oh, yeah.
So hello, friend.
Yeah, that is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, the other 2 cards in our primary colors are Crushed Descent, which I haven't liked at all, and Dusk Mantle Operative, which I also haven't liked at all. So
yeah, nothing worth speaking of.
Right. Now, the next pack actually has some decent stuff. There's a Price of Betrayal, which we could maybe bring out of the board. There's a Shriek Diver, which is fine. That card actually pressures Planeswalkers in a reasonable way. And then there's a New Horizons, a Bond of Flourishing, and a War Screecher to round it out. I like the Shriek Diver over the price because I found that I haven't been bringing in Price of Betrayal as much as you'd think just from reading it. But if you told me, for example, no, I really like this card out of the board, I would take it over a medium playable like a Shriek Diver. Where are you at on that?
I think I would take Price of Betrayal here. I don't. Mm-hmm. I haven't really found the need to play Shriek Diver very often, and Sky Theater Strix kind of fills a similar role for me.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Let's see. How are we on 3s here? Yeah, we're a little shy. All right. Well, we'll take the price then, and I'm just going to put it in the board for now. Like I said, I think I would have gone with the Diver, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty close. Like, I'm not completely sold on it one way or the other.
All right, I'm just going to cruise through the rest of the pack. There's a Charity Extractor as the only card in our colors, a Lazatep Behemoth. Interestingly, there is a New Horizon still in the pack, so green looks pretty open. Unlikely Aid, that's the pump spell in black. And then we pick up a Return to Nature. All right, so just to recap really quickly, our deck right now is Spark Harvest, Lazatep Reaver as black, Callous Dismissal, Lazatep Plating, Sky Theater Strix, and Narset in blue. We've got a Guild Globe and an Ugin's Conjurant, and then a Death Sprout in green-black. So we're looking to be blue-black base, and then maybe splash that Death Sprout. I already would off of the Guild Globe anyway.
Yeah, the one Guild Globe is more than enough.
Yeah, totally. So let's take a look at our next pack. Ooh, wow, we got a nice one. So first, our rare is Spark Double. This is the 3 and a blue illusion that can come down a copy, a creature, or a planeswalker, and it has a bunch of other text that make sure that your planeswalker doesn't die when you do so. That's a nice one already. Next uncommon is Despark. That's the black-white removal spell. And then there is Kaya, Bane of the Dead. So in our deck, that would be 3 black, black, black for the great, removal spell planeswalker. And then the other uncommon is Huatley's Raptor, not on our radar at all. Let's see. Are there any other good cards? Well, there's a Guild Globe and a Gateway Plaza.
The worst set of commons I've seen. But so this is interesting. It basically comes down to Kaya versus Spark Double.
Right.
And one thing that makes it slightly more interesting is that we only have kind of, again, those same 2.5 black cards, the two mono black cards and the Death Sprout. So there is a bit of an argument against taking a black card because you're not 100% sure. That said, I think Kaya is just so good. And in blue-black, you have 8 of the Fallen. You could get Flux Channeler to proliferate onto Kaya. So I would certainly take Kaya here over Spark Double.
I would as well. And another thing to add as to why I would, because there are times when I would not make that pick, but I would here because right now Spark Double's best copy is a Narset, which is fine. That's pretty good. Not necessarily like I win the game, but like Ugin's Conjurant, not good with that. I mean, and we've got like a Sky Theater Strix and a Lazatep Reaver. Like we don't have any big bomb creatures or even good uncommons that we really want to copy with it. So yeah,
totally. So if we already had like a Casmina and like a 1 or 2 other good creature / planeswalkers, it would be a little closer. But at this point, I think it's easy Kaya here, and that kind of cements us into blue-black here. Though our next pick
it's getting better.
Is no slash team. That it wouldn't make like a whinnying noise like a horse, but Yeah, a horse that just saw an apple. And the apple in this case is Eternal Skylord. It's the 5 mana 3/3 amass 2 that also gives all your tokens flying. So that is an excellent card. The second best card in this pack is like Tidebearer Giant or Thunderdrake in blue-black, or Elite Guard Mage or Cyclops Electromancer splashes. But no real reason to do that. I think we just slam Skylord and move on.
Yeah, we just got shipped one of the best uncommons, so we will certainly take it here. We did get past a rare here in pack 2, pick 3. It's Single Combat. That's the 3 white sorcery. And I haven't found this card to be devastating anyway. And on top of it, of course, not splashable in our deck. That leaves our uncommons, though. Leyline Prowler, 1 black-green, 2/3 Death Touch Lifelinker that taps. And then we've got Neoform here as well. From the commons, not much here either. Kiora's Dambreaker, Kasmina's Transmutation seems to be the only.
This is kind of an interesting pick. I think for me, it'd be between Leyline Prowler and Kiora's Dambreaker. And clearly Leyline Prowler is a better card. But looking at the deck we have so far, where we have, at this point, like 5 blue cards and 3 black cards, plus Death Sprout, I think we're going to be blue-black. Leyline Prowler is not a card I want to splash. I don't like splashing mana fixers. And I don't think we're going to end up switching to black-green here. That just doesn't seem very likely. So my guess is I would prefer just to take Kiora's Dambreaker. You don't want a lot of 6-drops, but this one at least has some good synergies going on.
Yeah, it's really tough because normally I want to take a shot on a card like Leyline Prowler over a super replaceable card like Dambreaker. But man, the Prowler just doesn't fit. It really doesn't. Like Kaya, Bane of the Dead costs 3 black, and we have Narset in our deck. We can't just have random forests flopping around in there for a Leyline Prowler. No. It's just not going to work with this stuff.
I'm not happy about it.
We'll take the Dambreaker.
But this is one of the more disciplined picks that I think we're going to have to make.
Yeah. Not something you're known for. But. All right, this next one, 2 uncommons in the pack. This is pack 2, pick 4. Invade the City, which we mentioned before, and then Heartwarming Redemption 2, red, white, blah, blah, blah. So we don't want that. What are the notable commons? Well, the one for us that seems the best easily is Callous Dismissal. That would be the second one in our pile. There's some other decent stuff, a Trusted Pegasus, a Wanderer Strike, a Heartfire.
Yeah, some solid white cards, but we're not even close to wanting to take advantage of that. So we're just going to take the Callous Dismissal here.
Yeah, and I'm pretty happy. I like to have 2 of those easy. Next pack is a lot of white, red, and green, and there's only actually 2 cards in our colors. This is pack 2, pick 5. There's a Spellkeeper Weird and a Kaya's Ghost Form. I would just slam the Spellkeeper Weird. The other stuff is all mediocre and not on color for us, so nothing to really...
Also, at this point, we're with Kaya and a Narset, we're very interested in picking up an Eight of the Fallen, and Spellkeeper Weird, Eight of the Fallen is a nice combination, too.
There we go. So we pick up Spellkeeper Weird there. Next pack also only has 2 cards in our colors. A little concerning there, and they're both pretty mediocre. One of them is just bad, Crush Descent. The other one is Sorin's Thirst, which you and I have both been pretty down on as a removal spell in the format. This is another super medium pack. The only good cards are Burning Prophet and Chandra's Pyrohelix, with maybe a nod to Makeshift Battalion if you're into that kind of thing. But really, this pack is low power level at this point. This is pick number 6 in our second pack. I would just take Sorin's Thirst here.
Totally. You just Sorin's Thirst. Maybe you play it, maybe you don't. But, there's nothing else there. Ooh, this is a nice late gift. We've got 3 blue commons here. Ashiok's Skulker, Kiora's Dambreaker, and then the Tamio's Epiphany, which we're certainly taking.
Yep.
This deck's even looking like it's well positioned for that. It's got double Callous Dismissal, Lazotep Reaver as early plays. And then besides Kaya and Eternal Skylord doesn't have that many expensive cards because Kiora's Dambreaker is fully optional, and Death Sprout is at least a removal spell, and it does only cost 4. So I'm pretty happy picking up a Tamio's Epiphany here.
Yeah, same. Also, of note, this is the time when I'll start to switch to the other screen and look at my mana curve just to kind of get a feel for what I've taken thus far. And right now, we are in a good spot. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 7 2-drops currently. Which is great. I like doing things early in the game in the format. And then we've got 2 3-drops and just the 1 4. Our 4-drop is Death Sprout. So we have plenty of room for this Tamio's Epiphany with no question. So we're going to take that. This is pick 8. So this is our last natural pick in the pack, and it's a Junker. It's Saheeli, Silverwing, or Banehound. I'm just taking the Silverwing. Other cards in the pack are Enforcer Griffin, On-Crop Invader, Chain Whip Cyclops. Nothing really to mention here. So I just take the Silverwing.
So red and white seem to be open this direction. I'm expecting decent black cards in pack 3 based on that late Lazarus Reaver, but I mean, I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So take the Silver Wing. This is our wheel pack, and I'm going to kind of cruise through the rest of this. Wow, we wheeled another Guild Globe, Luis. We did it.
Perfect.
Yeah, so I'll take that.
And it's worth noting with double Guild Globe here, I'm totally open to splashing other colors if we just open, something splashable in a different color, like. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, good point. Totally. We'll keep that in mind going to the last pack. I'm going to cruise through these last few picks because we know that there's nothing great that we can wheel anyway. We pick up an Unlikely Aid, which is going to go straight to the sideboard. Sure, a Neoform.
A Neoform going straight to Modern.
Yeah, there you go. Another Saheeli Silverwing in case we need a 4-ball. An Ironclad Crovad in the board, and then a Demolish. All right. So before we go to pack 3, to our first pick at pack 3, let's just take a quick look at our deck once again. And I like to just sort of take stock on things that I need to prioritize more than I normally would. Like this would be a time perhaps where I would say, all right, we're low on 2-drops. Like I need to make sure that I do something early in the game.
No, we're not though. We've got a lot of 2-drops.
And in this case, we're not. So what are we low on? Well, we could use perhaps another removal spell. You always want those, right? But one more Spark Harvest or a Cruelty or something would be fantastic. And then we actually do have a little bit of room at the top end. Right now, our 2 good top end cards are Eternal Skylord and Kaya. We do have that Dambreaker, which can sub in, as Luis said, but it's optional. So if we pick up a good 6-drop or 5-drop, we can be pretty aggressive about taking that as well.
Honestly, this deck is kind of perfect. Like
it's great.
We've got Spark Harvest, double Callous Dismissal, Death Sprout, and Kaya as removal spells, plus Sorin's Thirst if we want it. We have Lazarus Reaver, Sky Theater Strix as 2-drops, and Ugin's Conjurant that can go anywhere in the curve. We have Narset Tamiya's Epiphany as card draw, and we even have Eternal Skylord, Kyora's Dambreaker as some kind of bigger threats to end the game. So there's actually no one thing this deck is missing.
Yeah,
we're not short a win condition, we're not short 2-drops, we're not short removal. Obviously, we'd love to pick up some stuff. We have probably 16 cards I'd be happy playing, not counting that second Saheeli Silverwing there.
Yeah, I put one of them on the board, so yeah. And then go ahead. Well,
I was going to say, we're not short on playables either, even though obviously we'd love to make some upgrades.
That's right. And then I really like your point, so we'll make sure to keep in mind, we don't have to be just the 2 colors with a splash that we have now. We could go into another. All right, so Demolish goes into the board, and we open... Oh wow, this is a great pack actually. So this is interesting. So what we've opened for our rare is actually a mythic, and longtime listeners of the show will know exactly what it is based on Luis's sound effect. It is Ilharg the Razeboar. We actually got one of the gods, but that is double red and not an easy card to splash, even with Guild Globes, because they make 2 mana of different colors, so they won't provide the mana you need to splash an Ilharg. But there's also a lot more in this pack. So there's a Flux Channeler, which is a card you and I both like a lot, and a card I absolutely adore, Kasmina Enigmatic Mentor. The last uncommon is Cyclops Electromancer, and then a quick look at the commons reveals nothing of note. There's a band together, but that's obviously miles away.
It's pretty wild for those of you who keep up on Magic Twitter or photos from events or whatnot. I can't look at Kasmina and not think Nissa cosplay. Like,
oh, I know. It looks just like her.
It's just unbelievable. It's almost like it was rigged.
Yeah, seriously. And you saw that she had it so her eyes can glow.
Yep.
Unbelievable. Yeah. She's one of the best cosplayers. Easy.
Oh, for sure.
And speaking of Kasmina, so this is, of course, like, to me, Kasmina is a clear pick over Flux Channeler. Do you agree with that?
Oh, totally. I think that both are good. I would be happy first picking Flux Channeler in a deck that has the cards that we already have with a couple Planeswalkers and a couple of Mask cards. But Kasmina just can dominate a game by herself. She is great when you're behind. It's great when you're ahead. Stop you from getting flooded. So I think this is an extremely easy Kasmina pick here.
Yeah, now, but we have to talk about not taking Ilharg, right? Because there's going to be people that are saying, hey, you guys said you were looking for a third color. Like, why aren't you taking a god here?
So there's a couple reasons. One, the most pressing is it's cost double red. We're not looking to splash double red cards. Like, our one splash card is a Death Sprout that costs a solitary green mana. And Ilharg's not even that good. Like, how much better is Ilharg than Kyora's Dambreaker? Clearly, if you're playing red, Ilharg's much better. But Ilharg isn't like miles better, especially when you're on a splash and let's say you have to play it a couple turns delayed.
Yeah, totally. And especially with our creature quality, which is not that high. Yeah. And we have a few sweet ones, but yeah.
It'd be a different conversation if we were talking about God Eternal Oketra. Because at that point, it's like, well, Oketra is just obscene if you just cast Oketra and have her stay in play. But even then, I'd probably just take Kasmina here. I just think that splashing a double color card in a deck that's already quite good is just not necessary.
No,
if our deck was weaker, I'd be more likely to.
Agreed. Yeah, and I agree about Oketra, but Ilharg doesn't particularly fit in this archetype, like you said, and Kasmina is awesome. I mean, this card is so good. Really annoying for the opponent, too. So we are going to take Kasmina, Enigmatic Mentor. Pick number 2. Our uncommons are all here and the rares missing. Yeah. Bond of Passion, Dovin's Veto, and Huatli the Sun's Heart are our uncommons. And then you think, okay, that's fine. There's a bunch of good removal still, available at common. Not for us. The 3 cards that are in our colors currently are Erratic Visionary, another Kiora's Dambreaker, and a Shriek Diver. Womp.
Honestly, it's not even that we're in the wrong colors. There's not a single card in this pack I'd be happy taking in the first 5 picks of the draft.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, it's between Visionary and Shriek Diver. Neither of them are particularly likely to make the cut. I guess I would take the Visionary here. I don't know.
Yeah, I would take Visionary here. I think we can probably, I'd rather have Visionary than Sky Theater Strix most of the time.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, all right. Next one's kind of interesting. So the rare is still in the pack here, Luis. And it's Oath of Kaya. Now, just a quick reminder, that is 1 white-black for a legendary enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you do 3 damage to any target and gain 3 life. And then whenever an opponent attacks a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, you drain your opponent for 2. So that is a card that we mentioned, hey, we might be looking to branch into another color given the fact that we've got the 2 Guild Globes. But there's also Saheeli Sublime Artificer in the pack at uncommon. And then the commons are pretty bad outside of the 2 black ones that I actually really do like, which is Toll of the Invasion and Lazotep Reaver. There's also a Spark Reaver and a Spellkeeper Weird in the pack.
This is
a close one, right? Now, the first thing we should tackle here is, are you willing to take Oath of Kaya here?
No, I'm not. I'm not looking to splash Oath of Kaya. It's not that I have any objection to that, but I'm not like actively looking to splash. It's if Oath of Kaya was the best card in the pack by a wide margin and there was nothing in our colors, sure. But given that we have like multiple good options, I would rather just play one of the on-color cards here.
Yeah. So the question then is Lazotep Reaver number 2, Toll of the Invasion number 1, or Saheeli Sublime Artificer. I know a lot of people would just default to Saheeli. We do have a significant number of non-creature spells. Is that how many we have? Wow. Yeah. So that probably is the pick then. I have been fine with Saheeli Sublime Art. I am not quite as high on the card as I think people and or the bots are. But I do think it's a good card. And in this deck, it seems like the pretty clear pick. I like Toll of the Invasion a lot, though.
Yeah, I do like Toll a lot, and I like Lazotep Reaver a lot. But we have good early defense, and we have actual good removal. So the Toll is a little bit less pressing. When you have, Death Sprout and Spark Harvest and Double Callous Dismissal, then you're in a good position to deal. And Kaya, we're in a good position to deal with a lot of what they play. So I'd rather just take Saheeli because this deck can use the tokens reasonably well. It's not the best token deck I've ever seen, but I think it would be decent.
I do too, and I like it in combination with the 2 Callous Dismissals as well. It's not that hard to set up a turn 5 where you do both. Okay, next pack is uncommons are Bond of Revival. That's a return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste until your next turn for 4 and a black at sorcery speed. There's an Evolution Sage, which we like. And then there is a playable Planeswalker in Kiora Behemoth Beckoner for us. That would be 2 and a blue in our deck currently. What else is here? A Spark Reaper? Yeah, that's it.
This is a pretty easy Spark Reaper for me. We just picked up Saheeli to make tokens. We have a Lazotep Reaver and Double Callous Dismissal. And Kiora just does not work in this deck. We've got literally one card that draws us a card off it. So the Kiora's Dambreaker. So
yeah, and that ain't it. All right, Spark Reaper, easy pickup there for us. Another Bond of Revival plus Storm the Citadel. But boy, I just got shivers because we got a nice one here. We just got past a Spark Spark Harvest. The only 2 cards in our colors, or 3 cards, are Spark Harvest, Spellkeeper Weird, and then that Bond of Revival. This is just a windmill Spark Harvest.
Oh, yeah. And before this pack, I was really questioning whether black was the color we wanted to be. Like, look, Kaya and Spark Harvest are good enough to push us into black, especially when blue is as open as it is. But this second Spark Harvest really solidifies that. So, yeah, I'm really happy picking up a second Spark Harvest. Now that Saheeli pick is looking insanely good.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Let's see. Our next pick, this is pack 3, pick 6. This is, oh man, there's a Paradise Druid in this pack.
It's a late Paradise Druid.
Yeah, Spellkeeper Weird seems to be the only reasonable pickup for us. The other options in our colors are Dusk Mantle Operative, Unlikely Aid, which is not, that's the combat trick, and then Vampire Opportunist, which I haven't liked at all. So I would just take the Weird here.
I would take Spellkeeper Weird and then not play it.
Yeah, I mean, we could too. I mean, we're already at 22 cards, but we've got lots of stuff to get back with it. Spark Harvest, Callous Dismissal times 2, etc.
It's just a little slow, so I'm not usually a fan of having multiples there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. This is pick 7 for pack 3, so we're kind of getting down to it here. Uncommon left in the pack is God Pharaoh's Statute. No. And there's really nothing here. The only card in our colors is Davriel's Shadow Fugue, and then we've got Saheeli's Silverwing.
Yeah, I'm not interested in any of these cards.
Yeah, so I'll just take the Shadow Fugue and put it in the sideboard. We pick up another Price of Betrayal. That's the only card in our colors. I'll put that in the board. And then I'm going to kind of cruise to the finish because A, there's not that many cards left for us, and B, we're just about done here. So Vampire Opportunist is our next pick. Prismite. No, I'll just take a Dovin's Veto for my Collectione there. Wow. Okay, let's pump the brakes. We got the Toll of the Invasion back, and the Spark Reaper was still in the pack. It's always great.
4 cards left.
Yeah, there's 4 cards left. It's so sweet when you see the Spark Reaper and you're like, oh, nice. And then you see a better card next somehow.
Oh, yeah. Toll of the Invasion is much better here.
Yeah, so we're taking Toll of the Invasion. That goes great in our deck. We can take a Bond of Revival, though we're not going to be playing it. Demolish and Force Landing are our last 2 cards. We'll take a Force Landing, and then we got an Unlikely Aid in our last pick. So let's get that out of here. And that puts us at 41 cards. Now, the one question that I would like to answer for our dear listeners before we head off is, what's our last cut and how many forests are we actually running? And are we going to run the Death Sprout? We've got the double Guild Globe. It feels like we should.
Yeah, I would cut Saheeli's Silverwing. Keep both Spellkeeper Weirds. And
yeah,
I would probably play like 1 forest plus double Guild Globe. That's 3 sources. And this deck has, between the 2 Guild Globes, the Erratic Visionary, Casmina, and Tamiyo's Epiphany, a lot of ways to look at extra cards. Plus Narset. Narset can pick up Guild Globe if you already have the Death Sprout in hand. So yeah, I'm looking at 8-8-1. It looks like a pretty good ratio there to me. And I think this deck's very good.
I do too. This deck is sweet. I actually get to play this deck now. That's great.
We'll put a screenshot of the deck and sideboard in the show notes here.
Yeah, let me just
the episode.
Yeah, we'll put that up on the Patreon thing for the episode because I can't embed it into the podcast. I'm going to read the cards really quickly. We got 2 Spark Harvest, Erratic Visionary, Sky Theater Strix, Lazotep Reaver, double Callous Dismissal, Lazotep Plating, double Guild Globe, double Spellkeeper Weird, Spark Reaper, Narset, Toll of the Invasion, Saheeli. This deck is sweet. Casmina, Tamiyo's Epiphany, Death Sprout, Ugin's Conjurant, Eternal Skylord, Kiora's Dambreaker, and then Kaya. And then, as Luis mentioned, 8 Island, 8 Swamp, and a Forest.
Yeah, and with 14 non-creature spells in the deck, I think I do like Sky Theater Strix over Saheeli's Silverwing, though it is kind of close.
Okay. Yeah, we still have the Visionary in here, too. Lots to do early. So, wow, that deck ended up sweet. So what we want from you now is to know if this is helpful. Because we've always wanted to do something like this, but it does require kind of a big hurdle to do this on audio only, just because we know you're driving, you're doing the dishes, you're walking the dog, whatever it is that you're doing out there in the world, you can't necessarily listen to every single card of every single thing. So did you feel like you were able to follow along in a way that helped you learn something, or is there some feedback that you could give us to help us improve the segment a little bit? If you'd like, feel free to hit us up on the normal ways via email or on Twitter or whatever, and let us know if it was helpful or if it needs a little bit of work still, and we'll address that.
As always, Any sort of criticism or complaints to Marshall, praise can be headed my way.
All right, let's do a few overrated, underrated, or properly rated to see kind of where you and I fall on some of these cards.
There's this huge list of cards, but
well, some of them go quickly, right, and then some don't. In fact, spoiler alert! I didn't need to put that in there. In fact, I don't even like that one. I'm just killing that right now. All right. First card up, Ugin's Conference.
Could we just not talk about this?
Underrated or properly rated?
We talk so much about this card. You know, our
is it underrated still?
No, it's properly rated. Our wonderful listeners have really taken it to heart. Every time it shows up on stream, someone talks about it. Everyone knows Ugin's Conference. Great, and we don't have to move. We don't have to say that again.
All right. Next card is Grateful Apparition. Is it overrated now? I feel like it might be. Like people keep saying, this is a good card in this, green-white deck. And I'm like, I've never lost to that green-white deck.
It's overrated. I think that this card does not have the support it needs. Like it's kind of weird to say that because Proliferate's a big theme in this card. Yeah, sometimes you just play this into Teo's Light Shield and run away with the game. But I just kept seeing this card go wrong so often where if it's going to be good, they kill it. And when it's not going to be good, they ignore it. That's not a really good deal because you just end up with a card that basically it has to both have cards to proliferate and have that be good enough and have the opponent not have removal. And that just, that feels like too much that needs to go right.
Yeah. What about the Wanderer? You have two choices for this, underrated or properly rated.
It's properly rated. I don't believe it's overrated. I think that
it's a good card.
I think it's just a good card. I think most people have properly rated that. Although that does kind of lead me to a mini rant, if you will excuse me.
Oh God, yeah, unload, do it.
The Wanderer reminds me of how many Planeswalker passives there are in this set, and how brutal it can be when you run into one of them, like when you walk into one. So you have the Wanderer out, and your opponent's like, Jai is greeting your creature, and it's like, okay, that resolves. You can scry one, but nothing else happens. Or, your opponent has a Narset in play, and you're like, all right, play my Guild Globe, and it's like, yeah, you don't draw a card.
Right.
There's a lot of cards like that. Like Tameo's a rare, right? You don't, if you haven't played a lot of Standard, where Tameo's showing up all over, but if you haven't played a lot of Standard and haven't played against it limited, I would not fault you if you cast Holy Invasion after they have a Tameo in play. It doesn't work. The Tameo stops discards. So I feel like it's hard to avoid making these Planeswalker passives if you're like, well, you're going to make 30 Planeswalkers and they all need some kind of static ability. But man, these things really, really punish you if you don't know what's going on, or you just have missed that on this complicated board with 17 different cards in play. One of their cards says, yeah, this subset of cards you have doesn't work.
Right. One of our listeners sent in they tweeted at us kind of a board state that happened to them. This comes from our listener, Michael, who said, feel free to use this if you want. So apparently the opponent used Jaya's ability to target a creature, but the Wanderer was out. Then used Ob Nixilis to kill the same creature and draw 2 cards, but there was no damage done, again, because of the Wanderer. Then played, what is Beacon?
Yeah, ignite the Beacon to go search, but there was a Ashiok in play.
That's right. So it's
I think it's Ashiok.
Yeah, and this is just this is just the things that happen in here.
Well, it's especially brutal in something like Ashiok, where I've never seen that passive come up. Right? Have you ever had a game where that mattered?
No, I haven't. Yeah.
And so when you have like the one card in the set where that matters, you're just going to run into it because it just never comes up,
Yeah, and it came up when we were doing coverage of the Mox as well. Not that card, but it was Kaya, actually, because one of the competitors in the Mox had drafted a deck with a couple of the Ward Scale Crocodiles. And it turns out Kaya takes away hexproof, and it's
I'm not going to lie. I've cast Lazotep Plating in response to a Kaya activation before.
Yeah, right? Like this set is hard. So yeah, that was a
basically the takeaway from that is I understand why these things exist the way they do, but I do think that it is more of a negative than a positive in the format that this can happen. Because I believe it is an exit opportunity for someone who's like, you know what? I'm sick of running into on the board Planeswalkers. I don't want to play anymore. And I don't like seeing that, because look, if we're playing, Marshall, and you attack your 2/2 and I play a flash 2/3 and block, you don't feel like you're stupid, right? You feel like, wow, they had that card, or I divine arrow your attacker. When you attack with the 2/2 and I like kind of look at you weird and I like pay 2 mana to untap my 2/3 and block, then you're like, no new information was gained, except that I'm an idiot.
Yes, it's just embarrassing. It just is. Yeah,
and that's the sort of thing that
make you want to leave.
Was demotivating. So we've got Erratic Visionary next. You were pretty down on this card initially.
Yeah, I was. I have it as still overrated. I just see it all the time.
For a second, I thought you had seen the light.
No, I don't. I do play it. I mean, let's not. I don't want to take like a super hot take on Erratic Visionary, but I just see it like all the time, and I just, man, even the first one I'm feeling like, and the second one I really don't want. It's just so expensive.
Don't like the second one. I like the first one a good amount. There's just such a big difference between having a 2-drop in play and your opponent's like, wow, now I just can't play my Narset or Davriel.
Yeah.
And not, you know?
Yeah, that's why I like Strix, though. I like it that Strix it can actually get in. And
the Strix has been growing on me. It's on this list. We'll see what our conclusion is there.
Okay, things are getting personal now. Flux Channeler. Well, overrated, underrated, or properly?
It depends. If you're an arena bot, underrated.
As we saw, yeah.
If you're a human being, probably close to properly rated, though.
I think so too.
A kind of pernicious effect of drafting a lot on arena is I think people start to underrate cards they can get late, and it kind of drove me crazy. Actually, I remember streaming the last set Ravnica Allegiance, and someone's like, "Oh yeah, you shouldn't take the card names are just like escaping me. 2 mana, 2/1 Afterlife 1, Imperious Oligarch. They're like, oh yeah, you don't need to take that. The bots don't take that card. You can just get a 10th pick.
Oh God.
And I'm just like, I don't want to draft.
Like, and the worst part is if they're right?
Yeah, they were right.
That feels terrible.
But it was just like, I kind of thought that earlier when we took Kasmina over Flux Channel, like, yeah, we might just wheel the Flux Channel. Who knows?
Yeah.
And I know bots get adjusted at times, but what I think that can do is now, even subconsciously, people kind of start to push those cards lower in their pick order because they're just used to getting them late. Yeah,
not good. Hopefully we'll get human drafting. All right, this one's going to cause a firestorm on the internet. Narset Parter of Veils.
All right.
Overrated.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to just
say card.
Incendiary wrong opinions, you will get people to respond.
So here's the thing. It's a good card. It's a good card. It's good. It's fine. It's not as good. It's not that great. Like, how many cards does it draw you on average?
3.
I mean, it depends on the deck, right? 3?
Well,
where are you getting 3 from?
You draw 2 and then you proliferate with your Flux Channeler.
Come on. But you're not drawing. You're drawing. Sometimes you miss. I miss. Don't you miss? Don't you have decks that aren't literally chock full of, 15 cards that it hits or something?
I mean, don't put it in your 8 spell decks.
Okay. But there's a lot of decks that are 8 spell decks, right?
I don't think so. I think it's pretty easy to get like 10 or 12 just without, because I mean, there's Guild Globe, there's like all the amass cards that are spells that make creatures. So it's not even that you're short on creatures. I've been very impressed with Narset. I think that she's awesome. Yeah,
I don't. So here's what I think. So first things first. Okay, fine. I'm just going to spot you the 2 cards. So that's Divination, but a better, right? Because you're hitting spells rather than not, which is pretty good if she survives. Doesn't affect the board. Her static ability is sometimes okay, but most of the time not.
I think her static ability is decent.
Yeah, it doesn't do much most games, though.
There's a lot of random cantrips running around.
In blue.
Well, there's
Guild Globe. The white-green deck doesn't care.
Defiant Strike, Honor the God Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think she's fine. I think she holds her own. I play her in every blue deck, and I take her as highly as we did here, but I don't think she's some bomb. Look, I don't think she's the greatest. I think a lot of the Planeswalkers are better.
One of the top 5 cards in the set for Constructed does, again, bias people a little bit because they're used to seeing like, oh, Narset's great. But that said, I think that Narset is about properly rated.
Like here's another, just like, and as an example, like I think Kasmina's way better than Narset.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, it does cost an extra mana, so you have to kind of factor that in. But that's a card that I look at and I'm like, that thing always gives you what you want. It affects the board, and it's a real pain every game for your opponent to try to mess with your stuff. Where Narcissus a lot more hit or miss. Again, though, this is my take on it, while also taking her highly like we did in the draft. So still a card that I want to
look, the thing is, you also just end up with a Planeswalker in play which makes proliferate better. It makes like sacking them to like, Heartfire or something like that better.
True. That's true.
I think Narset is excellent.
I think Narset's fine. Silent Submersible, is it underrated now? Did it creep down enough?
It's really hard for it not to be underrated because people rated it at basically a 0. It's not a 0.
Yeah.
This is another card where expectation management is important. Mm-hmm. You look at this and you're so disappointed by what it could be that it kind of blinds you to the fact that it's still a playable card. It's a 2-mana 2/3, granted with some help. But the most important part is if it hits them, you draw a card. So if you play this on turn 2 and they don't have a 2-drop and you play a 3-drop, you're in really good shape. And even later in the game, sometimes you can just sneak this thing in by using a bounce or removal spell, and all of a sudden, yeah, you're kind of in the money.
Yeah, and even with what you said, sometimes they do play a 2-drop, but it's a chump, right? It's like, it's a 1/2 or something like that, and my Silent Submersible actually gets to attack profitably and sort of force my opponent into awkward situations. I don't love it either, but I do feel like it's maybe crept down. All right, what about Tamiyo's Epiphany?
As sad as I am to say, I think the card's overrated.
No, it is. That's why I put it on the list, even though I still love it so much.
Well, see, here's what's important to understand about Tamiyo's Epiphany. Like when we first saw it, I mean, I think most people had it in their like probably second to Even Eternal and in the blue common order, and expected big things because 4C was awesome in every limited format where it existed. It turns out this format has not only a lot of ways to draw cards, it really punishes you for getting behind on board too much. And as a result, I mean, I've liked Callous Dismissal more than Tamiyo's Epiphany, and I tend not to want to draft a bunch of Tamiyo's Epiphanies just because you want your decks to be a little bit more proactive. Like, look, this blue-black control deck we just drafted, it's got a Tamiyo's Epiphany, and I'm happy to have that card. But this deck's got a lot of ways to affect the board. It's going to curve out a lot of the time where it just goes Erratic Visionary or Lazarus Reaver into a Planeswalker, like whether it's Kasmina or Narset, and then play some removal spells. And, it's just not critical to have Tamiyo's Epiphany when you're doing all that.
Yeah. I'm still clinging to it.
The card's good. The card is good. I think you would play one in almost every blue deck. It's just you won't take it over a lot of the more proactive blue cards.
It just feels like there's a real tax in this format on the cards that just don't affect the board. You just because of some of the Planeswalkers like Narset and stuff that you do want to protect to try to get your value out of them. Curving Narset into Tamiyo's Epiphany is a good way to have a lot of cards in your hand when you die. All right. I think it's time. Dreadhorde Invasion, overrated.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Like, does it? I have won games with it, but man, I remember I had it in my hand in Lazotep Reaver, and I'm just like, kind of rather just have Lazotep Reaver on turn 2 a lot of the time.
Wow. Okay. Let's not.
I just looked at it and I was like, let's
not exaggerate here. I mean, Dreadhorde Invasion is not the bomb that I thought it was, but it's also a very good card, and I'm going to take it most of the times I see it in a pack, and I certainly would rather have it than a Lazotep Reaver.
Not on turn 2. One of them gives you 2 power right away. The other one's just like
okay. I mean, on turn 7, that's actually a good argument because on turn 7, it's like, I'm at 6 life. I don't think that I can play this card. Whereas getting 2 bodies right away is also better than getting 0.
But the key with the card, of course, is to attack once when it has 6 power. Like because then it's great, right? Like if you ever get to swing in with something with a big army token, then it's GG.
All right. So what is the worst card you would take over Dreadhorde Invasion? Are there like uncommons you take over them?
Are there uncommons?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are. Like we were just talking about some of the Planeswalkers. Like I would take Kasmina. I would take Kaya.
Yeah, I can buy that.
Yeah.
I think that
I would take. I think I would take. What's her name? I forgot her name, but the one that makes Death Touchers, Vraska.
Oh, Vraska.
Yeah.
All right. That definitely means Dreadhorde Invasion has moved down in the pick order, though the card is still pretty good.
Yeah, it is still pretty good. What about Liliana's Triumph? A card people still play for some reason.
If you're putting this in your deck, I think it's pretty easy to call this overrated. I think the card is okay as a sideboard card. This is 1 and a black instant target player sacks a creature, because there's some decks that just this actually does work kind of nicely about against them. But most decks, like look at this last deck we just drafted once again. This deck would love for your opponent to have like as many Liliana's Triumphs as they could hold in their deck. You've got just Callous Dismissals and Lazotep Reaver and Lazotep Plating, which also stops it in multiple ways. It's just not a good card. It's a sideboard card against creature light decks that you can expect them to start on turn 3 or 4 with a creature and it can just kill it. So bad against all the amass cards, anything that makes tokens. People who just have 2-drops.
Can we finally call Toll of the Invasion properly rated, or is it still underrated?
It is properly rated.
It's been bumped up.
Well, except by bots, as we saw with 4 cards left in the pack.
Yeah, they take a while to learn or get updated. What about Bolt Bend? I know that people were high on it early. I am starting to creep on the this might be a little overrated. The card obviously shines in very specific moments where it is a devastating blowout, but you do need those things to happen to make the card good, and it doesn't always happen like that.
No, I have not seen Bolt Bend really pull its weight here.
Yeah, so overrated for Bolt Bend. Oh no. Should we do this? I don't even know if we should cover this one, Luis.
It's just punching down, like really, really far down.
Or up in this case to the trees.
Yeah.
How do you say this again?
Arboreal Grazer.
Arboreal Grazer. So overrated. Like just the fact that this thing still makes it into people's hopefully 40 card libraries to start their limited games just baffles me. I have seen it reduced, but it was weeks into the format and people were playing it regularly still.
I still play against it.
Yeah.
I played against it literally the last draft I did. Look, the card's appealing for some subset of the population. Also, this is another card that actually is legit in constructed. So I think that that might give a little bump, and people just like the velocity it gives you. Turn 1 Grazer, turn 2 3-drop.
It does feel good. It does feel good to do that. It's just the cost isn't apparent to you. You know that it costs you effectively a card out of your hand to
don't play Arboreal Grazer. Like
try mulliganing with it. You know, it's like all right. Giant Growth. Now, did we overrate Giant Growth to start just because it's Giant Growth?
Oh, totally.
So how far down has it gone? Is it properly rated now?
I think it's properly rated. I don't play against it very much. I never take it. It's not a good card.
It just doesn't fit.
Well, it's a good card in the vacuum. It's just not a good card in this format. There's a reasonable amount of death touch. Also, the green creatures are already bigger. There's so much of this format is about like removal and good spells that Giant Growth is really not where you want to be.
Yeah, you can tell why they decided to put Giant Growth in the set, because they gave us all the instant speed cheap removal again. So they felt like, we can get away with it. What about Karn the Great Creator? Is this janky plan overrated or what?
No, I think it's underrated. I think having Karn with the statue of the God Pharaoh and another artifact like a Saheeli's Silverwing or something along those lines in your sideboard is just decent. It's not great, but it's decent. I have had it once and played against it twice and thought it was pretty good all those times.
Okay. But it does take that statue to really kind of...
Yeah, that's really the key, because it's a 6-drop artifact that A, is powerful once it's in play, and B, acts as a 6/6 once you're karning. So I think that for a card that is kind of a throwaway, like, assuming you're not rare drafting or whatever, or other people aren't, you'll see Karn pretty late. It actually can do something. It's not a 0.
Okay. Non-zero. Sky Theater Strix? Yeah.
Oh, definitely underrated.
Yeah, I think so too.
I've been happy with this card. It has grown on me, much like when you play a non-creature spell.
Yes.
It pressures planeswalkers pretty nicely. You can reliably attack for 2, and if you have some good instants, it can even block as a 2/2, which is fine too.
Yeah, and of course, critically just getting out on board so that you can either defend your walkers or attack theirs, and this is one of the best ways for blue to do that. All right, have we yelled at people enough to get to Balt Rakish Instigator to properly rated yet, or is it still
I would hope so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say properly rated, but given the amount of people who tweet at us draft picks, which, by the way, I've been really enjoying. People just keep them coming.
Yeah.
Like, I think the most common that I see is me, you, and Ben all on the same tweet.
I love that.
Which is fine.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, because usually one or two of us will answer. The third usually doesn't answer at that point unless they have something different to say.
Unless they disagree.
But,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. But one thing that's consistent is I think every time someone has tweeted at me with a Tybalt in the pack, I've said take the Tybalt.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Yeah. And you're usually quick on that too.
Tybalt's just so good because making 2 1/1 devils that die and do a point of damage, super good defensively, enables all your sacrifice stuff. You end up with a Tybalt in play who can also be sacrificed to something like Heartfire or Spark Reaper. And, if you have proliferating, like in blue-red, for example, it gets you a little bit of extra value. It's so cheap. It's 3 mana.
Yeah. Also, one of the things that pops up a lot is that you can throw that extra damage at a planeswalker, and the 5 that go -2/-2, you can either finish it off or make it so that they have to choose between using it one last time and losing it forever. Or, of course, you can use that damage to finish off opponent creatures and stuff too. Card is just great. And the static definitely counts against certain decks. All right, this one, wow, I have seen wildly varying takes on this one. Vivian's Arcbow. Overrated, underrated,
I don't have access
or
to the soundboard to have the big buzzer sound.
I can do something. How about this?
Not really what I was going for, but
sorry, I'll let you do the I'll let you do the soundboard from now on.
I think Vivian's Arcbow is not particularly good. Just too much mana. The risk of ruin when you do miss is too high, and you do ultimately start out down a card, which you kind of get back once you've discarded some useless cards and turned them into good material. But you still have to remember that you are down a card to begin with.
Yeah, it's interesting though because there's definitely people who love this card, and I'm talking about pros, MPL people in that level that think that the Arcbow's really, really good, like worth going for. So I feel the same way you do. I also had my opponents play really weird with it. I had one opponent, I attacked, they're like, go. They have a card in their hand or something, and they have 5 lands up. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to attack into it. Like I'm kind of ahead and maybe they'll miss or whatever. So I'm like, attack with everything. And they go tap 5 lands, discard a 5-drop creature. Look at the top 5 and like hit a 3 or something. And I'm like, you should have just cast your Ward Scale Crocodile. Like you'd be much better off. And now you're just like spinning the wheel on hoping to hit. And if you get something cheaper or God forbid you miss, like it's just a complete disaster. So yeah, some weird stuff. But I don't know. I think it's overrated. I don't consider it a card that like, I don't take it very highly. And I think other people do. Card I still haven't actually got to play with, Living Twister.
Oh, this card is obscene. It is very demoralizing to play against because it's so big that it's really hard to get past it in combat.
2/5.
Gets around it's 2/5. Gets around the red removal spells like Jaya's Greeting and Heartfire, and then when your opponent has it in play, you just feel like anything you play is just going to die. You still have to play your cards because you can't not, and it is a cost. They do run out of lands eventually, but it just feels like it trivializes all your cards. So I think the card's properly rated. People seem to take it very highly.
Fairly balmy. All right. Here's a big one. Nicol Bolas Dragon God. Is it overrated?
I believe it is underrated.
Okay, speak.
Well, it's got such a heinously bad casting cost that a lot of people are just ruling it out. And it also seems like, well, I shouldn't take this card early because it's so hard to cast. And, I don't know how much better it is than the other options. But I think it turns out that the effect here is powerful enough and cards like Guild Globe and Gateway Plaza are good enough at fixing that you actually can run Bolas with a reasonable degree of consistency. And the card is very strong once it's in play. Like comes down, eats their best thing, and then gets 2 card advantage off of plussing. Like, you're up a card, they're down a card. So I think that Bolas is actually a little underrated. I think a lot of people are loath to take it early. I think it's actually fine. It's actually
easier to cast than it looks at face value. I think the card's overrated. And my thinking on it is when I play it, it's good. I mean, it's really good, but it is still very difficult to cast, even if doable. And is on par. Like the weird thing is the static ability kind of doesn't matter in most scenarios because Nicol Bolas's abilities are better anyway than what the other planeswalkers that are going to be on the battlefield.
Yeah, I was completely discounting that part.
Yeah, you didn't even mention it, and I think that was correct. But what I usually find it does is it kills something problematic and then dies, or if the board's at parity, then I can take over and win the game pretty easy by just drawing extra cards once per turn. But I mentioned this on a show prior, but like I just think Ugin's a better card, and I'm not even talking about casting cost wise. I just think it's just a straight up better Magic card than
but Ugin's the best card in the set. So
is it? Okay, well, but that is because it's colorless, right? Like I'm saying, like let's take that off the table. I just think like its abilities are better than Nicol Bolas's.
I think if you took the colorless part off the table, Ugin good drops to like third best card in the set after like Oketra and Liliana maybe, but still a ridiculous card.
Okay, fair enough. So maybe I'm just really high on that. Starev Dev Karin Lich.
Oh, I never win when I draft this card.
Me neither. So it's overrated, right? It looks bomby, but it's just kind of not.
Look, this is the same comparison I made before with like Ilharg, where if you have a hard time casting this, how much better is it than like a Tidebearer Giant?
Right.
And
right.
The best case scenario for this is on turn 4. But then you have nothing in your graveyard, so it's just a 5/4 trample, which that's not nothing. I mean, a turn 4 5/4 trample is pretty big, but that's not going to beat some of the common removal, or you're just opponent playing a Death Toucher, or them taking 10 and then playing something bigger or big enough to trade at least.
Right.
It's just not a bomb is the thing. Like I would take Ob Nixilis's Cruelty over it without a second thought.
Agreed. And it looks like a bomb because it's a gold card with big stats. So yeah, overrated for sure.
Gold card, a 4-mana 5/4 that draws you a good card when it hits them, but that just doesn't really pan out.
No, so. You know what it plays like? It plays like a strong uncommon to me. Okay, this is a good uncommon, but not a bomb rare. What about Dovin Hand of Control? I have seen this card kind of go up and down. Is it over, under, or properly rated?
I think properly rated.
I think so.
Maybe
too.
if anything underrated, but it's a good card. You have to use it correctly. It's really important that you be accomplishing something when you have Dovin in play, because otherwise it just ticks down. It's just a bad tumble magnet.
Yeah.
But if you're able to like have another Planeswalker going or be killing them with flyers, something like that, Dovin does a pretty good job. But when Dovin's just sitting there preventing their 2/2 from attacking, it just doesn't do anything.
Yeah, I feel like Dovin counts how much mana you spend after you cast Dovin, and that's kind of how he judges you. Even if it's just drawing cards or just advancing any type of game plan, while he sort of says, all right, just hold off for a few more minutes there, big flyer or bomb on the ground or whatever, then you're doing it right.
Or you have a reliable way to proliferate, whether it's like Evolution Sage or Flux Channeler, and all of a sudden Dovin just becomes kind of like an icy manipulator.
Yeah. A couple more. Next one is Saheeli Sublime Artificer. Now, I am actually going to come down and say that this is now overrated. And here's my thought process on that. I think that the deck that we had it in our draft walkthrough, that's where you want the card, or in the blue-red spells deck. I think that she's excellent in those decks. I think that most people, when they play this card, assume that their deck is like that without really bothering to check. And I've seen Saheeli come down and make a grand total of a 1/1. And that was it. And maybe soak up some damage, which isn't a disaster, still a playable card probably, but people are really stoked on this card as if she was like one of the better planeswalkers in the set. And I have her mid-pack rather than one of the top tier ones, for the uncommons.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Saheeli is a fine card, but and can be quite strong in the right deck, but there's a lot of decks where you play Saheeli and you make 1 or 2 tokens and that's all you do. Like I have definitely beaten people who have Saheeli in play that is not doing anything.
And that I think happens. I think people just sort of take the card and go, oh, this is just a good card, I'm just going to take it, and don't really recognize, no, you really do need to work to make Saheeli good. But when she is excellent. And one thing I really do appreciate about the design on the card, you can do stupid stuff, right? Like funny, you can just like copy something that you really shouldn't be copied, and then start going off with it. I think you mentioned Flux Channeler.
Yeah, that's my favorite for sure. You copy a Flux Channeler and then you just like get to go nuts.
Yeah, and that's really fun. I mean, I think that's cool to have that kind of upside on cards. Last one, Iron Bully. Is Iron Bully punching down, punching up, or punching straight forward?
The bully is I guess. I don't know which one correlates with which, but I guess it's punching up a little bit. I think that Iron Bully is better than it looked to me. Basically, where I've liked it is in decks with a lot of proliferate or in decks with a good sacrifice theme. And it's not one of the high tier cards in either of those decks, but it's definitely like a solid like 20 to 23rd card there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, leaving behind a body if you put the counter somewhere else ends up being relevant a lot. It really does. So even if it's just a little 1/1, and then like you said, having Menace means that it's a great place to proliferate. Even the first counter, right? Make a 3/3 Menace is a real problem for a lot of decks. So really, really hard to profitably block that without at least losing one of your creatures. So I still don't know. I guess it's underrated then slightly. You said he's punching up, so I suppose that's what that means. All right, let's call that a show, Luis. Again, give us any feedback you have on the draft walkthrough. We'd love to hear it to make sure that it's working for you in audio form. As podcasts always got to fight that fight. Make sure that the information is accessible to you. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Luis is LSV. You can find everything related to the podcast at lrcast.com, including links to all our stuff, including Luis mentioned his stream. He was streaming a couple days ago. And are you going to fire up a little Vintage Cube stream at some point, maybe in the next, while it's still going?
Well, yeah. I mean, I did stream Vintage Cube literally yesterday. But
yeah.
I would imagine so. It is my favorite format, so I'll be vintage cubing as I can,
Yeah. I know you can't necessarily pick and choose because you're quite the busy boy these days. But if you do, then people can sign up and follow you on twitch.tv/LSV. And when you go live, boom, they'll get a notification and you can watch Luis in real time do nonsense. I want to thank our sponsors, channelfireball.com. Make sure you sell your cards back to them, plus 30% if you're going to trade in your cards for store credit. That is a big bonus and a great way to keep the cards, right? You need new cards, you need new packs, you need to get a box so you can draft War of the Spark or coming up Modern Horizons or whatever with your friends. Well, this is a great day to do it. A great way to do it. Take some of your old draft rares you're not going to do anything with anyway. Send them into CFB. You can get cash or that store credit plus 30%. That's going to do it for this episode of LR. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.
So as you mentioned, we've got a dog, Julie, who's a Yorkie, about a year old. And, I always wondered what she does when we're not around or when we don't know where she is. And it's so funny when you get these little glimpses into the secret lives of dogs, So
how did you get this glimpse? Now I'm curious.
It happened today. I was going down to record the episode, and it's late, right? Like it's like midnight. I go down, and she's like in her crate downstairs, which is really weird because we just moved it into the living room to throw it away or to like move it to storage because we don't need it anymore.
She missed
and she decided to like hang out in the crate, and then that just reminds me of like other times when I've kind of stumbled upon her, like I walk downstairs to get a drink in the middle of the night, and because she just vanishes to who knows where, and she's just like in the backyard staring at me like I caught her. like, what are you doing outside at midnight? And part of the answer, of course, is that when we give her a good treat, whether it's like a bully stick or like the various dog treats, she'll grab it and run outside immediately to I guess save it for later.
I think they hide.
Yeah, the upside is like she then just brings these just disgusting bully sticks back in.
Oh my god!
So a bully stick is like dried bull genitals. That is what a bully stick is. And she'll bring it back in. It's just covered in dirt. It's been outside for 2 weeks or something, and she's just like, "Wow, this is delicious. It's the best thing she's ever had."
Oh god!
So I don't know. I don't really know what goes through dog brains because the reason I think it's so funny is that animals, right, especially wild animals, a large percentage of their like brain power and energy and resources is devoted to survival. When you're in the wild scrounging for scraps and trying to survive, maybe like have a litter of cubs, etc. Like that just so much of your time and effort and what your kind of all your genes have evolved to is for that. Whereas she's a domesticated dog. We feed her twice a day. She would take more, if she could get it. But she has a warm place to sleep. She has as much water as she wants. Nothing. There's no predators unless you count my daughter, who sometimes can get a little aggro. But what does the dog do with all that time? It's like a dog gets to retire. Like, it just has nothing to do besides keep her hunting instincts, keen by barking at the mailman and, trying to steal food and stuff. So I don't know. I was just wondering, like, the domesticated pets, pets seem like they have a pretty sweet deal. I was wondering what I would do with all that time. And I guess I probably wouldn't hide beef jerky in the backyard, but you got to do what you got to do.